to jump into this, and I just want to talk about social networks. Do you realize how powerful social networks are in your life? I mean, many times we don't realize that the influence they have in our life. In fact, I'm going to talk here in just a second about a study I found, but do you realize that it's been proven, for example, and this is just one example, we could give many examples, but if you hang around somebody that drinks excessively, you're more than 30% likely to overdrink yourself. I mean, and so we could say that if somebody that's successful in business, if you hang out with them, you're more than likely, higher percentage to be successful there. If you hang out with somebody that's health conscious, you're going to be more likely to think about those kind of things. And so why is that? It's just that because life is socially contagious. I want you to get this out of the gate, that's what takes place. And so we understand that. And so let's think about that study. The study simply said that if your spouse overdrinks, and by overdrinking, they define that you have more than 2 drinks a day. So more than 2 drinks a day, that you are the risk of your becoming an alcoholic increases by over 37%. Somebody ought to say, wow, at that point, by over 37%. If your siblings drink in this way, your risk increases by 40%. If your casual friends drink in this way, listen to this, that increases by 57%. But what about your best buds? What about your closest friends? If your closest friends overdrink more than 2 drinks a day, listen, this is not a typo, by the way, 171% more likely to become an alcoholic than not. Wow. Now, why is that? Why is it boiled down to this? Because we could take the exact same percentages of all these things and you could fill in anything you want to fill in. And those pretty close to the same things become true and become a realism. It's just that our social networks, they matter. Our thing, and so you do it, and the reason it becomes true is closer from social reasons than family reasons affect us more. It's just that. It's just because it's social. We exist in community, and community affects us. And some people will sit there and shake their heads, no, but I can point around the room of stories I know of how you've been affected, good and bad, and you could probably do the exact same thing. It's just a big deal. Now let's take that truth, that our social network affects us. What if we compared that to our spiritual life? Is the exact same thing true, good or bad? The answer is absolutely, absolutely. And so I want to challenge you to think about your spiritual relationships. That's what I want to challenge you to think through today. You know, because many times we think, hey, I'm hanging out with church people, right? But the problem is that a lot of church people are the ones that are drinking more than 2 drinks every day. Right? I mean, sometimes church people are the ones that don't ever open their Bible. Sometimes church, right? Yeah, I think y'all get my point. So you need to look at which church people you're hanging out with. Right? Am I preaching to anybody today? I mean, and this is not a throwing stones at anybody. I'm just wanting you to understand, we're in this series, Difference Maker, and listen, we want you to get this and get it big time. We started off and we built some foundation. In the last several weeks, we've been looking at our core values. And I'm talking, when we talk about our core values, these are the things that ought to drive and motivate and move us as a church. In the first week, we look at this. Found people do what? Okay? Who are you finding? Who's your one? Who's your one? We're getting ready to have an event called Friend Day here in a few weeks. And listen, we're asking everybody to show up with at least one person. At least one person. Who's your friend? I mean, listen, if you have them, you'll go out. Why? Because found people find people. Next, we looked at what? Save people? Serve people. And listen, it's a natural part of who we are as a follower of Jesus. We have a desire to want to give our life and to serve. And we've got some incredible opportunities coming your way. In fact, a lot of opportunities. This coming Saturday, we're going to be at 2 schools, Martinsburg High School and South Middle School, as we're going to go in and seek to serve our community by serving in our schools. and doing everything from mulching and to painting to construction to plumbing. There's just a myriad of things, doing some events with children. But listen, we need you to serve and to be a part of that. Why? Because save people, serve people. We've got generosity feeds that's coming up on April the 6th, where we're going to be packing 20,000 meals. You have an opportunity there. We have the Easter egg hunt. You can come play with kids and get to make a difference in tons and tons of families. And I could go on, but save people, serve people. It's a contradiction in terms to say, I'm a follower of Jesus, but I don't serve. It doesn't work that way. If we're like Jesus, Jesus came to serve. He came to be an example. And then today we're going to look at our third core value, and it's just simply this: I can't do life alone. Say that out loud with me. I can't do life alone. A lot of us try. A lot of us try. We know it in our head, but in our practice, I've got this. I'm good. I can make it pretty much by myself. But listen, if you look at the pattern of Jesus, listen, it was always this: get connected with me, and then get connected with others. It was just his pattern. It was the way he did life. And once you've got connected with others, listen, not just with anybody. Listen, he teaches over and over, you need to get connected with people that are on the same spiritual path. And listen, I want you to pay attention to that. The same passion you have, the same desire you have, that they're heading in the same spiritual direction. They're holding on to the same spiritual values that you do. Not just any follower of Jesus is the same. There's people that name the name but don't live the life. They don't walk the walk. And I just want you to understand, it's okay to evaluate. People say, well, don't judge me. No, we're not judging anybody, but you can inspect the fruit. You could see what's coming out of their life and see what's happening in their life. It really does make a difference. So notice Jesus: come to me, then get connected to others. Follow me and get connected to others. And listen, from the very launch of the church, this was so ingrained and so built on. I want you to listen how the scriptures describe this early church and see if you can't see, I can't do life alone from it. Acts 2:42, it says, listen, get the group mentions all the time here. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. And everyone, say everyone. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by all the apostles, and all the believers were together and had everything in common. They were selling their possessions and goods, and they gave to anyone as he had need. And every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, and praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those that were being saved. If you can't see, I can't do life alone. Getting connected, look, church, that's not enough. Getting connected and staying connected. This is a part we miss. Getting connected and staying connected. Listen, hopefully when you get married, you stay married. Like the intent is until death do you part. Same with your church. Same with your spiritual family. Listen, you get connected, you stay connected. It's a powerful thing. Let's go back and look at this passage a little bit more. Verse 42 again, it says, they devoted themselves to what? To the fellowship. It says all the believers were together and had everything in common. And every day they continued to meet together. They broke bread in their homes and they ate together. Now listen how Eugene Peterson paraphrased this passage. He says, that day about 3,000 were baptized and were signed up. And they did what? They committed themselves. I want you to understand, we have a lot of people that stir the waters of baptism. They go through and listen, it's not about us dunking you. That's not the purpose of it. The purpose is your commitment. They committed themselves to the teaching of the apostles and to life together. So let me ask you a question. Why did Jesus come? Why did he come? Listen, he came to establish his church. That was the point. He came to establish his church. And listen, the very word church in the Greek is the Greek word ekklesia, and it just means the called out ones, those that are called out to come follow and to serve. And so Jesus didn't come to establish a community, a company. He came to establish a community. He didn't come to set up a bunch of rules and rituals that we get to follow all the time. No, he came to give relationship and to get that started. He didn't come to give us a formula to follow. No, he came to give us a family. Not like a family, but as a family. That's what he came to give us. And if you miss getting connected, you're going to miss out on the very life that God Almighty intended for you to have. It's that important. It's that big a deal that we understand that. And so why? Why is it so critical? I'm going to just give you two reasons today. And the first is just simply raw support. Listen, the reason you need community, the reason you need the connection this way is just flat out support, somebody to uphold you and to lift you up. You know, a lot of you probably got to see or at least on TV watch a little bit of the Special Olympics and to do it, and it's special needs children from literally all athletes from all over the world, and they come and they compete in the Special Olympics. And during one of these events, there was a group of Down syndrome children that were all lined up to race. The race started. They took off running the race, and they're all going and giving their best, and then one of them stumbled and fell. And you know what every other racer did? They stopped, ran back to the one that fell, helped them up, and then arm in arm, they ran across the finish line, right? The crowd went nuts and everything. But listen, have you ever felt like, man, I wish I had that kind of spiritual support when I stumble, when I fall? Come on, anybody here not stumbled and fallen somewhere? Whew. Brutal, isn't it? But man, sometimes we just need somebody to come back, help us up, say it's okay, and say, let's go. Let's start again. Let's finish the race. Some of you here today, that's the word you need to hear. I mean, we could say amen and you've heard enough. But I want you to know, we've all wanted that. We all have desired that thing. And the bottom line reality is if you want to live the life that God has called you to, you can't do it without other people. You can't. It's impossible. Listen to just a few verses. I'm going to give you just 3. I could give you 103. But it says, Paul said, encourage one another and build each other up. That's what the church is about. It says in Hebrews, spur one another on toward love and good deeds. In James says to pray for each other. And those things matter. They matter. Building each other up, praying for each other, poking each other every now and then. Say, come on, let's go. Let's do something. We need that raw support and encouragement. And with that, but listen, according to the American Sociological Review, I want you to listen to these numbers. Americans have 1/3 fewer close friends and confidants than even just 2 decades ago. 1/3 less. In 1985, the average American had 3 people that they could say as a confidant that I could talk to. But listen, you fast forward to 2004, the number had dropped to 2. And listen at this. 1 out of every 4 had nobody. Nobody. What do you do when you have nobody? What happens in your life when life happens? When the bottom falls out? What happens? See, I want you to understand the Bible says that a brother is born for adversity. A sister is born for adversity. When struggles come, if life hits you and you don't have it, man, it's a desperate situation. It's an awful situation. And listen, you need that raw, real support that is there, that's given. And so when we talk about that, what do you long for? What do you want? I mean, when you talk about this confidant and friend, listen, we've got marketplace friends and relationships. Every one of you do. You talk, you a little short and high, how's it going? No depth to it. What we want, I think every person here, you want real friends, soul friends. I mean, people that know you and you can connect. I mean, we may not quite know how to get it, but that's what we desire. We want it with every part of who we are. There was a 4th grade teacher that introduced a new game to her students called Balloon Stomp. Some of you may know this game. They tied a piece of yarn or string to a balloon. They tied it to the kid's ankle, and they told them, this is the rule. Listen, you're to go out and you're to stomp all the other balloons and try not to get your balloon stomped. At the end, the one whose balloon hasn't been busted wins, right? They understood the game clearly as fourth graders. In fact, they understood, listen, if I win, you lose. If you win, I lose. And fourth graders, they understood that's just the way it is. Everybody is somebody to compete with, right? Everybody is out there to be evaluated to. And so when they started the game and said, on your mark, set, go, they took off with a ferocity that was crazy and began stomping balloons and going crazy. Even the kids that ran over to the sideline that didn't want to participate in the game, it didn't matter. They went after them and they stomped those balloons until one person was left. Listen, and everybody else was a loser. One winner, right? One winner. And listen, even the winner didn't feel like a winner because everybody else despised him. Right? You know, the teacher said, man, it's hard to win at balloon stomp. And she said, my next class came in. And then when the next class came in, it was a class of special needs children. And so the same rules were given, the same directions. Here we go. Here's how the game starts. And literally, she said, I don't think that my class quite got it. I don't think they quite understood. But, or maybe they just had different hearts. But when I said go, this one little girl immediately knelt down and took her balloon, and she held it out for the boy beside her while he stomped her balloon, and they both giggled. And then he got down and held his balloon, almost like holding a football for a tee, and she stomped the balloon, and it was like the kids in this class formed a little balloon stomp co-op, if you will, and they did it. And when the last balloon was popped, you know what happened? The whole class cheered and got excited. Why? Everybody won. Everybody won. Listen, I'm not an everybody win in every situation guy, but listen, I do know this. Every single one of us, we want to be a part of a group where everybody's valued. Everybody matters. Everybody is cared for and everybody's loved. And folks, listen, that's what I'm talking about. You know, sometimes we need to look at that and understand who played the rules the right way. Man, I think you would have to look at it from a totally different perspective when you look at that. But when we look at that, I want you to see the scriptures kind of echo this. In fact, in the book of Ecclesiastes, it says this. It says, 2 are better than 1, because they have a good return for their work. If one falls down, his friend can help him up. But pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. Pity the man. Listen, some of you right now, if you were to fall today, pity the man. Pity the woman. You don't have any support. You don't have anyone there along you. And listen, our social networks, they matter. Why? Because you can't do life alone. You need the support. Secondly, you need the challenge that it comes from. Listen, we all, and I mean every one of us, we need challenge in our lives. We need somebody every now and then to push us a little bit more. And here's what I can tell you about me, and I think it's probably true of you. I love when I get around somebody that's some steps ahead of me, that are better at things. They know how to pray better. They know how to lead their church better. They're stronger. They're more disciplined. They somehow inspire me, listen, to want to be better myself. When I get around somebody that has a deeper relationship with God, that's more passionate about a certain area, it causes me to want to up my game. Do y'all understand what I'm talking about? Now listen, herein lies the problem. When we get around stronger people, better people, more skilled people in certain areas, and here we're talking about our faith, we grow, we develop. But the problem is we kind of like to sit back. It's easy to be around people that are just coasting. It's easy. I mean, it takes zero effort. I mean, when you get around people stronger, right now I have a coach, another pastor from up in the Philadelphia area, got a church that's running quite a few more than we are, and every single month I meet with him twice, and he drives me nuts because he's constantly challenging me to think about situations different, to read different things, to be exposed to different things. And listen, I leave out of that, worn out emotionally and mentally, but challenged every time. I got to get better. I got to get better. I got to grow and move on. Folks, that's what we need. We need that hunger and that desire to get there. And listen, the scriptures kind of say it like this. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. You could say so one woman sharpens another. But listen, get the imagery. As iron, clang, bang, spark, right? As one man sharpens another. Listen, as iron, it's beating. There's a challenge in that. There's a call to growth in that. That, listen, it's not easy. It's not simple. And to do it, the writer of Hebrews says, let's see how inventive we can be in encouraging love and helping out, not avoiding being together, but spurring each other on. Folks, we need that. Listen, about, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was coming out leaving for the day, and Tracy Willett was leaning on the cutout there into the office, and she was talking to Jackie, and with tears in her eyes, she said, "Did you see the article about the SBC, Southern Baptist Convention? It's what I grew up in, was what I nurtured in." I said, "No, what are you talking?" And then I saw it, but I didn't read it, and she says, "You need to go read it." And I mean, tears in her eyes, and so I'm like, "What in the world?" She says, "It's really long, Jim, but it's going to make you sick." And I read that, I grew up Southern Baptist. New Life started as a Southern Baptist church. And as I read it, it was the history of 20 years of sweeping sexual abuse, sexual misconduct, pedophilia under the carpet by over 400 pastors, 3 former SBC presidents. The president of the seminary I graduated from, not that he did it, but he swept it under the carpet. Listen, pastors that I hold as heroes were listed in the number. And I can remember just being sick. When I read the article that night, that I just wanted to throw up. We've all seen it. We've all seen it. Listen, in the 80s when I was in high school, it was Jim Bakker and Jimmy Swaggart. Y'all remember? Disgusting. You go in the 90s, it was the Catholic Church was racked with all the pedophilia stuff of the priests doing unthinkable things to children. I mean, unbelievable. You go in the early 2000s, remember Ted Haggard, mega church from college? Listen, caught with a male prostitute. Listen, before I started New Life, I flew to Chicago, and if you will, I was mentored and discipled by Bill Hybels. And listen, when the Me Too movement here has just come out, Bill Hybels has been hammered with his own problems. Why? I mean, church, a study was done. What makes it so a guy like Jim Bakker falls, but a guy like Billy Graham didn't? Why not? And listen, one character quality stood out head and shoulders above everything else when they did the study. You can write this down. Those who ran their life course to the end without stumbling, they had maintained significant, intimate relationships with others who were running the race well. Now, Billy Graham, let's go back to Billy Graham. James White, who pastors Mecklenburg Community Church down in Charlotte, he said, I had the privilege of going in and interviewing Billy Graham, and he said, when I went in with Billy Graham, he said he took me through his house, and he showed me picture after picture after picture in his house. This guy, he helped me this way. This guy challenged me here. And he showed him man after man after man who listened, who spoke into his life, who encouraged him, who held him accountable. And he said, listen, I went to go do the interview because I already thought Billy Graham was amazing. But he said, I left realizing, oh my gosh, the reason Billy Graham was the man he was, that he had the family he was, that has the reputation and the ministry that he does, It's because, man, this guy let people speak into his life. There was a challenge, and walking away from that, I don't think we can run past that at all quickly when we do that. So let me ask you this question. How can we get connected? How can we make a connection here? And I want you to lean in with this and do this. You've got to get connected to the community. You've got to get connected to the community. And then secondly, you've got to get connected through the community. Now follow me. I'm going to try to unpack these real quickly on this. When I talk about this, first, you got to connect yourself to the community. How? We call it here at New Life ownership. It's our version of a membership class. On the March the 17th at 4 o'clock right here in this room, we're going to be teaching what we call the owner's class, what it means to own the vision of New Life. It's how you get connected to the family. But how do you get connected through the family? And listen, I just want you to hear this. Life groups. Life groups. I mean, I know I'm already seeing eyes roll right now. And listen, I just want you to understand, I'm doing my thing, I'm too busy, I'm whatever. Listen, I just want you to understand you've got to get connected to the church and through the church. It's just crazy important that you understand that. And I want to challenge you. March the 17th, come show up, an hour and a half, and it could change your life. Part of being an owner, we challenge people, you got to get baptized as a believer. And you say, what's the big deal with that? It's the first public act of identifying yourself. I'm unashamed. I'm his follower. I'm committing myself to this thing, to this community. We're going to be baptizing in all 4 of our services on Easter Sunday. Some of you have never been baptized as a believer. I want to encourage you to do that. If you haven't already turned in your connection card, you can mark that on the back of that, drop it in the boxes on the way out. Or you could simply stop by the welcome table and tell them, hey, I want to sign up for baptism. They'll scratch it on a piece of paper and get it to me. But folks, it's an important step. But ownership is just making a commitment to New Life or another church. Listen, nothing wrong with committing to another church. But you need to commit to New Life or to another church. And listen, make it your church. Your church. This is my church. I love my church. I'm committed to my church. And you say, what do you mean? Now, listen, this stuff of hopping all over town and going everywhere, folks, it's dysfunctional and it's unhealthy. And I'll call you out on it. I'll just call you. It's unhealthy. You need to find a place and make it your church and your place of worship. And nothing wrong with going somewhere else. In fact, if New Life feels weird to you, come see me. I'll help you find one. And without making it weird, I'm being serious. We're not in competition with all the churches in the community. We're serving the same God. And then once you choose a church, once you make that commitment to that church, listen, you need to make it your family. And the way you make it your family is you join a life group. Listen, you can go to a life group, a small group, and not be an owner, not be a member of New Life. But you cannot be part of the family and not go to a life group. I want you to get this. You have to. Why? That's where life happens. Listen, you don't build relationships here. You do it in a group of 6, 8, 10 people. It's where you connect and you connect at a different level. A small group is just that. It's a group of people that builds relationships for the purpose of helping each other grow in their faith. It's a group that gets together with the whole idea that, listen, we want to develop authentic community. We want to be there to support, to push, to encourage each other. There's so many things you can do. And I can tell you, if I talked about my life group, the biggest thing I would say I've learned is, listen, it's a set of friends. It's just a set of friends. I can eat a meal with, a snack with, and man, I look forward to it every week. Thursday night, it's like, man, I get to be around people I love. But listen, I've learned in my group that when the chips are down, you know what happens? They show up. They show up. They step into each other's lives. It may not be easy, but it's an awesome experience. Let me tell a couple stories, and I got to go fast. But last year we had one of our groups that they got to just sharing in group, and they found out in sharing that many of them had a child that was wrestling with homosexuality, or pronounced that I am a homosexual. And, they were all scared. They all felt like they didn't know what to do. And so they found a study about it. And as a group, they did a study about this whole issue, about how to deal with it, how to show grace through it. And man, it was powerful. I watched healing happen in that group. I watched powerful things as they began to share about it. And they learned how to deal with it. Beautiful, beautiful. That's what happens. They did life together with it. We had several of our groups right now that are just beginning this relationship. We've got so many people in our church starting to step into the foster care system and bring foster children into their life. And so some of our groups have started saying, hey, I'll adopt one of these families, and they'll provide child care, they'll provide meals, they'll go and just to hang out with people, they'll go help with a car or something around that. It doesn't really matter what the issue is, but it's a way of showing love and doing that. And as a church, we've kind of tried to bite off this thing that we want to help orphan kids and marginalized children in our community. And listen, this is a beautiful way for us to engage in it. We had another group, and I don't have time to give all of these, but another group, they had one of the fellows got laid off in his job, and for 3 months had no work, none. Freaking out, don't know what, can't find another job, couldn't get another government contract. And you know what the group did? This wasn't a church program. This was a life group of just a few people. Listen, they paid their mortgage for 3 months. Paid utility bills. And I'd sit there and I'd think, oh my gosh, that's a God sighting, folks. That's incredible. That's what happens. That's what happens in a life group. But listen, what about you? What about if life happened to you? Would there be any support? Listen, I'm going to tell you, some of you right now, you're blind. You got blind spots because you've got no support. You've got no encouragement. You've got nobody looking after you. And listen, this isn't me asking something from you. This is something, man, I can just tell you, you need it. You desperately need the opportunity to be a part of that. And I want you just to write this down. At New Life, we call our small groups what? Life groups. Listen, why? We could easily just label them small groups, but listen, we want you to hear it's about life. It's about giving life. It's about doing something powerful. I want to just recognize a few difference makers here. How many of you know Jeff and Tina Hissam? A few of you. Yeah, Jeff and Tina Hissam, listen, they've been coming to church here for a while, and listen, I've watched them just develop and grow in their faith. But listen, you talk about somebody that models biblical community, it's Jeff and Tina Hissam. They're plugging in, they're sharing their life with other people. They're plugging in with New Life Global Ministries and serving through that and doing life. And listen, and because of them, many other people are growing because of that connection. How about this gal sitting over here, Jennifer Fraunfelder, right? She didn't know I was going to single her out and embarrass her. But listen, same exact thing. I've watched Jennifer for years as she's plugged in. And listen, faithfully leads her life group. Sometimes you're leading two, right? And plugging along. Actually, you're leading two right now, aren't you? Yeah, two groups. I mean, overachiever. Everybody kind of boo her. Boo. But listen, she serves a life group. She serves our youth. And folks, I'm going to tell you, you get around her. Ask her about it. Her life is richer because she serves. Difference maker, without a doubt, and we appreciate it. Folks, I'm going to tell you, we can't do life alone. And you say, Jim, you don't have a group for me. Folks, listen, we've got groups that meet on every day of the week. We've got groups that meet at different times through the week. We've got groups that are built around singles. We've got groups that are built around married couples. We've got all kinds of groups. We've got homeschooling groups. We've got different, if you have a group and we don't have it, we'll try to start it. I'm just saying, you need to get plugged in and get tied in along this. And so how do I do that? How do I get into a life group? Listen, it's hard, right? Now listen, after the service is over, when we say amen, those doors right there, like y'all see those doors, right? You came in them. You walk straight across the hallway. There's a table out there, and I'll guarantee you, we've got a listing of every group we've got. You can simply pick one today. You can just go out there and say, I'm in, right? I'm in. And here's why I'm going to challenge you to do it right now. I mean, as soon as you leave, listen, Satan is a master of plucking the seed that God has planted. Anybody hear me? Some of you are saying, yeah, I do need that. Let me go think about it. No, don't go think about it. Go do it. Why? Because Satan will pluck it out. Right? Just go do it. And I'm going to give you a challenge, and this is how we're going to end the service. I'm going to challenge you, go sign up, but look at me. Sign up for a group, and everybody hold up a number 6, right? Come on, give it to me, 6. I want you to commit to 6 weeks. 6 weeks. I'm going to show up to a group for 6 weeks. Why 6 weeks? First time is just weird, right? You're going to somebody's house and you don't really know them a whole lot, and it can feel a little weird. I'm going to be the first to tell you, it can feel a little weird. I'm crazy extrovert, and it still feels a little bit awkward the first time, but you keep going back. If you will commit to me 6 weeks, and you never go back to a life group again, I can almost guarantee you that you're going to have at least one friend that you're going to have for a lifetime. Listen, 6 weeks. And listen, does that happen every time? No. But listen, I can tell you, there's never going to be a time where you interact with God's people and God's word and you're not a better person. Not ever. Not ever. 6 weeks, and watch what God does. Listen, 2 things, and this one I'm going to end with. 2 things that will affect your life more than anything else. Right? Write these down. The books you read. Some of you say, I don't read. Well, that you're probably not having any life change. Let me just be honest. The books you read and the people you hang out with. Right? And so I want to encourage you, listen, you can't do life alone. Stephen, you take over.
I want to go back to the passage that Jim mentioned earlier in Hebrews and read it. It's Hebrews chapter 10, starting in verse 19. Therefore, brothers and sisters, since we have confidence to enter the holy places by the blood of Jesus, by the new and living way that he opened for us through the curtain, that is, through his flesh, and since we have a great priest over the house of God, let us draw near with true heart and full assurance of faith, with our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. Let us pray.